You are listening to the Marriage Clinic podcast, a podcast on love, marriage, and personal development. Our purpose is to inspire and equip you with knowledge and skills to enable you to have lasting and fulfilling relationships. Now your host, Joshua Mulgrew.
This is the Marriage Clinic podcast, a podcast about love, marriage, and your personal development. As usual, I am your host, Dr. Joshua Mulgrew. You can also call me Uncle Josh. I'm excited with what I have for you today, and I would want to take a moment and ask that you share this on whatever platform you are listening to this. The more you share, the more you like, the more you comment, gives us the ability to reach more people. So the best thing you can do to help the Marriage Clinic podcast is to engage this video on the platform that you are, and please do share it. Additionally, if you could go on all platforms, all social media platforms, TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, now known as X, YouTube, and please like, follow, or subscribe on all of these channels. It will do a wealth of good to us and the team. So hey, let's get into what we have to do today. Today is a very interesting topic. It stemmed from, well, I decided to make a video about this because of something that happened with someone and I on TikTok. I put up a video that said, after you have finished counseling the couple and you know they shouldn't get married, but you don't know how to tell them. And one young man went on a banter with me and he was asking, you are not God. So even if you counsel them and you say they wouldn't work, it doesn't mean they will not work, which is true. And I got thinking and I said, okay, how about if I put together 15 signs that you should reconsider the marriage? 15 signs that you should reconsider the marriage, because love does not conquer all. No matter how much in love you are with somebody, if you find these 15 signs in the relationship, I wouldn't advise that you get married. So who needs to listen to this today? People who are dating need to listen to this. Ideally, if you are not yet ready for marriage and you are dating and you listen to this, this will be helpful. People who are in premarital counseling should listen to this. People who are planning to get married should listen to this. Anyone who is friends to people who are going to get married should listen to this. If you are a parent to people who are going to get married, listen to this. And if you are a pastor, a mentor of people who are considering marriage, these are things you should know and you should look out for. So if you are looking for a title for today's Marriage Clinic podcast, it is 15 signs you should reconsider the marriage. 15 signs you should reconsider the marriage. So come on, let's go. I'm going to talk about these 15 signs, but I need to give a certain caveat. Number one, there will always be people who had some of these signs, got married, and the marriage worked. That's the first thing. Number two, I'm talking about 15 different things. If you have 3 or 4 of them, it can be worked on, and I still think you should go ahead and get married unless they are big issues. If you have up to 7 of them, I wouldn't advise you go ahead getting married. And if you have all 15, I would advise you run for the hills. And for every single point that I raise, you are going to think of somebody you know who had that problem and they got married and the marriage worked. But you must remember that in every situation, there are outliers. Okay? Let me give an example. Most people have to study well to be able to pass an exam. But we've all been in school where we have situations where people do not study and they pass an exam. So it doesn't mean that everybody who does not study will pass an exam. Simple example. All right, so let's go. 15 signs you should reconsider the marriage. 15 signs you should reconsider the marriage. Now let me also add this. Even if it is 3 days to the wedding, it is better to call off a wedding or break an engagement than break a marriage. So even if it's 15 days, 10 days, 5 days, 3 hours, and you realize that no, I may be making the mistake of my life. It is better you do not go ahead. Great. So what's the first one? The first one is high levels of criticism, contempt, and defensiveness. High levels of criticism, contempt, and defensiveness. What do we mean? Uncle Josh will explain. When you have a situation where the person you are dating or planning on getting married to is critical about everything you do, if you find yourself asking the person a lot of the time, so is there anything I do you like? Because you go out for a party together, by the time you're driving back in the car, he's asking you, why were you laughing like that with people? What kind of dress was that you wore? It's like he or she has entered the relationship with a chisel and is trying to chisel you into a certain mold that they want. So it is not you they want, there's a certain perception they want, and they want to force you into the mold. And as you remember, we keep saying that you can't fit a square peg into a round hole. So if the person you are with is constantly criticizing you, if the person has contempt for you, where the person is behaving like they are doing you a favor by dating you, or they are doing you a favor by marrying you, or he feels like he is the Prince Charming and he's marrying this poor girl to help her. I asked one guy, why did you marry this lady? He said, I wanted to help her. I said, you should have opened an NGO. We do not marry people to help them. You marry people who can pour into your life. So where you see there's a lot of criticism, where you see there's a lot of contempt, and where you see there's a lot of defensiveness, the person never wants to admit they are wrong. Any issue you raise, they will explain the issue. You can be dating someone who would rather argue for 2 hours than say sorry. Then you know that you have a situation where this may not be the best marriage to go into. So remember, high levels of criticism, contempt, and defensiveness is a major red flag that maybe this relationship should not extend to a marriage. Brings me to the second one. All right? The lack of support from family and friends. Lack of support from family and friends. When we were much younger, there was this song that I don't know if it was Akon who sang it. Nobody wanna see us together, no, but it don't matter, no. Ba-da-da-da. And then I think Tupac had a song which was Is It Me Against the World? And then another one had You Are My Ride or Die Chick, and so on. Ride or die, why do we have to die? Anytime you find yourself in a relationship where family is not supportive and friends who know you and love you are not supportive, there's a problem. Let me say that again. Avoid marrying someone that your friends and family are not happy about. Uncle George, but I love her. Love is not enough to manage a marriage. We don't marry individuals. Especially in Africa, we marry families. So if your mother doesn't like her, your father doesn't like her, your uncles don't like her, and you're saying they just don't understand her. If only they understood her, it would No! Be wise, because understand something. Friends and family don't have love goggles on. So they are able to see aspects of the relationship you are not seeing. But a lot of the time, people don't want to interfere in relationships. So what they end up doing is that they are a bit more quiet and they are waiting for you to ask the direct question. So if you are dating right now, you are considering marriage, I would ask that you go to your closest, your parents, your siblings, and ask them directly, hey, I need to know, do you think this person is good for me? Ask your close friends, do you think this person is good for me? And you may say, well, when I marry, my friends don't really matter. Friends matter. Because you were not made to be communicating with only one person. We are made to communicate with multiple people, and friends, family, they make a marriage nice. If you're having an outdooring ceremony after you've had a child and you're having an outdooring ceremony and your parents don't show up, your friends don't show up, there's a problem. When your sisters now park at the junction and call you to come and meet them for the thing your mother asked them to give you, because they don't want to come to the house, there's a problem. So you need to understand that where there's lack of support from family and friends, you may want to reconsider. Now, let me say this. As I was going through this list, I realized that about 3 or 4 of them were red flags before I got married. I know you're wondering which of them they are. I'm not really going to mention them, but I think point 7 is very important to remember as we go on. So what's the next flag, or what's the next thing that you need to look out for that warns you that maybe I shouldn't be getting married to this person? It is differing life goals. Where your life goals differ. Let me explain it. Ideally, if Abner marries Zacchaeus, and let's hope Zacchaeus is tall this time. If Abner marries Zacchaeus, Abner and Zacchaeus should be going in the same direction for the marriage to work. They should have similar life goals. They should have similar ambitions. But where you find yourself in a relationship where what he wants and what she wants are 2 direct opposites, then my question is, why are you getting married? So if you can't seem to be able to synchronize your goals, if you can't seem to be able to come to the point where you realize we are heading in this direction together, there is a big problem. And I would say probably reconsider getting married, because we get married to walk in the same direction. The scriptures tell us, can 2 walk together unless they agree? That means you must agree on direction. It also says that do not be unequally yoked. So you need to ask yourself, what are her life's goals? What are my life's goals? Where am I heading? I use this example all the time. Let's say, for instance, that you want to be, your life's goal is to become an MP in Ghana, or a politician, or plant a church in Ghana. And her life's goal is to be an aid worker in Congo. She believes Doctors Without Borders. She wants to be across the country, or she wants to be an international war journalist. And you want to be someone who it just doesn't work. And I've met too many people who are dating, and if you ask them, what is your girlfriend's goal for her life? Or what is your goal for your life? You don't even know. This is the Marriage Clinic Podcast, a podcast about love, marriage, and your personal development. I am Uncle Josh, and today I am bringing all of it to you. I know some of you will be watching this and you will not agree. Some of you are probably arguing with your phones right now. Let me give you an idea. You could drop it in water. I joke. Don't drop your phone in water. But argue with me all you want. The truth is the truth. All right? Brings me to the next thing. Which is the 4th, when another thing you need to look out for, or another sign you need to look out for, is this. Number 4. The 4th sign you should look out for is when cultural backgrounds differ. When your culture and your backgrounds differ. Let me say it again. When your culture and your backgrounds differ. I'll say it the last time. When your culture and your backgrounds differ. I didn't say when your tribe and your backgrounds differ. Let me explain. Marriage works when 2 people become more like each other. Okay? The chances of you enjoying your marriage are higher when the 2 of you begin to see things eye to eye, and the 2 of you begin to want to do the same things. The more varied your backgrounds, and the more varied the culture, the way you were brought up, the way you understand things is, the more difficult it is for the 2 of you to come together and form a lasting marriage. For instance, let's say, growing up, she used to go and ski in the Swiss Alps. When her dad probably would say, okay, it's vacation, let's go to Switzerland, and hey, make sure you pack warm clothing, we are going to ski. All right? And you used to swim in the village dam during vacations. coming out looking white, not as snow, but white with mud. You are two different people. First of all, the two of you coming together to understand these things will be interesting. You are eating she's eating a boiled egg that has a runny yolk. When she breaks it, the yolk runs out and she's dipping her bread into it. And you are looking at her, oh, the egg is raw. No, it's not raw according to the way she looks at it. So when the culture, the way you were brought up, the backgrounds with which you have, you came from money, she came from poverty, you came from a tight family unit, she came from a family unit where they are always fighting and beating each other. When those backgrounds are so different, it's a red flag that that marriage will struggle to work. Am I saying people cannot marry from different cultures? They can. But if you add this to some of the other things I'm talking about, then you know you have a problem. As I said, I'm talking about 15 red flags. If you want to put it that way, 15 red flags. And if you have more than 7 of them, please don't get married. If you have just 2 or 3, you can work through them. So where your culture and your backgrounds are so different, it makes the marriage success become very difficult. Think about it. Brings me to the next one. When you realize that you're planning to get married to, I said Abner and Zacchaeus. So let's say Abner and Zacchaeus are planning to get married. And Abner realizes that Zacchaeus has a winner-take-all mentality for any quarrel. So number 5, winner takes all conflict. Winner takes all conflict. When you realize that in this relationship, we have the attitude of the winner takes all. What does winner takes all means? One person must be right in any argument, or else the argument will not end. If you realize we've been dating for 6 months, and every quarrel we have had, I have had to go and apologize. My brother Ram. If, my dear sister, you realize that he will not calm down till you come and say sorry and you apologize. He has never said I'm wrong. He has never said forgive me. When you even ask him, what did you do wrong? Because in every quarrel, someone does something wrong. You ask him, what did you do wrong? He says, me, I did nothing wrong. You have a problem. As I love to say in conferences, a lady was asked, what nickname do you have for your husband? One person said, sweetheart. Someone said, honey coochie coochie. Another person said, my marshmallow. And this lady said, King Kong. Said, why? When he makes up his mind, no one can change his mind. King Kong. Once you're in a relationship with someone who believes they are always right, they believe they never make mistakes, they believe everything should be done according to the way they want it, it is not a relationship that will work out well as a marriage. So note that. Then the 6th one is so clear, I shouldn't even say it. Infidelity. Infidelity. If you are dating and she's cheating or he's cheating, why are you there? I like to listen to funny videos. And there was this thread, I think on Reddit, and they said, when did you realize you were in the wrong relationship? And the guy said, I was arrested with my girlfriend and her boyfriend came to bail her out. Oh. I was arrested with my girlfriend and her boyfriend came to bail her out. Are you the side cock? What are you? So, while dating, the person is cheating. And you know the lies guys tell, oh baby, the minute we marry it will stop. No! What you practice, you will repeat. Remember, whatever you do practice, you are going to repeat. So anytime you realize that there's infidelity in the relationship, I would not advise it continues into marriage. And there's a situation of one-off cheating where the person works on himself. You guys are able to work at it. And there's a situation where the person has the habit of cheating. It's a no-go. The marriage will suffer. What you are seeing will continue. Ask any married person. A lot of the red flags you see before you get married, they continue after marriage. Okay, so infidelity. I'm going to keep going faster now because I really want to do this in one episode. Then the seventh one, I said look out for the seventh, which is an interesting one. When you are getting married too young, getting married too young. Look, I'm a proponent of getting married early. I believe that don't wait till you're I won't use that example, but because children are watching. But I believe that you should get married where you can enjoy your spouse. The good book says, enjoy the wife of your youth and be satisfied with her breast. So she should be young. All right. However, for those who get married 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22 is kind of like the threshold. Marrying too early, you haven't even discovered yourself. You don't know what you want out of life. And sometimes because they got pregnant, they forced them to get married. Sometimes just because they felt they were in love. Sometimes your parents needed money, so they married you off to a richer man. Whatever be the case, getting married too early is a recipe for an unsatisfied marriage most of the time. So make sure you are not getting married too early. That's not too much of a problem in today's age, but it is one of the things that causes stress later on in marriage. Number 8, lack of religious attendance. There are 2 points: lack of religious attendance and disagreement on faith. What is religious attendance? Studies have shown that couples that, and this does not only apply to Christianity, couples that attend regularly every week a religious ceremony, they either go to the mosque or they go to church, all right, are likely to stay married for the long term. So, if you like going to church and he doesn't like going to church, and he says it's not a problem, let's get married, it will be a problem. And I nearly put my hands on my head. I've seen it so many times where the guy says, I won't stop you from going to church, but you see, I'm not the church kind. If he's not the church kind and you are the church kind, then don't marry him. But don't marry someone who already told you from the get-go that he doesn't like going to church, and now you are using his going to church to be a quarreling point of view. Oh, I'll change him. I know he doesn't go. The guy goes to church 3 times a year. He goes to church on 31st night. He goes to church on his birthday. And he goes to church on Christmas Day. Even Easter, when Christ died on the cross, he doesn't go to church. And you go to church, you go for Friday all night. You go for Sunday service. You go for Thursday choir rehearsal. There is going to be a problem in that marriage. Because at some point, he's going to ask, you're always going to church. Why? Or you are now going to be getting angry with him that you are dressing to go to church and he's now turning in bed. And you get to the car park in church and you see husbands coming with their wives and holding their children, and then you are crying in the car park, why can't my husband be like these people? And then when children come on the scene, on a day your child is tired and you wake the child up, hey, let's go to church. I want to be like daddy. I won't go to church today. What do you say? So that's one aspect of it. And then even on the more extreme side, if you are of different faiths, I don't advise you get married. Pastor, but I knew this guy who was a Buddhist and the wife was this. When they married, it worked. And I know for every one you will mention, I can give you 1,000 more that they were of different religions. They got married and it created a problem. Because when we quarrel, and one book says that I can cane you with a stick that shouldn't be bigger than my thumb. And the other book says, husbands, love your wives and be willing to sacrifice your life. Which one are we following? When you meet me outside with a lady with my hand around her waist and you are like, oh, Zacchaeus, are you cheating on me? And he says, no, my book says I can marry 4. So this is one of those I'm observing. Where are you? So, when you disagree on faith, or one of you lacks religious attendance, we don't advise that you get married. If you're wondering what you're watching, this is the Marriage Clinic podcast, a podcast about love, marriage, and your personal development. I'm giving you 15 red flags that should indicate to you that you shouldn't get married, even if you have finished premarital counseling. Remember, a broken engagement is better than a broken marriage. A broken engagement is better than a broken marriage. A couple of years ago, someone I was close to broke an engagement. They were this close to getting married. This close to getting married. They had already taken save the date pictures. And one of them said, you know what? This is not going to change. I'm not going to get married. We were unhappy about the situation, but we were glad. And can I tell you a little secret? A lot of the family members were like, okay, we wanted to tell you that this thing wouldn't work anyway. He was never a good person in the first place. So hey, I've given you it. Let me run through the rest. So the ninth thing you should look out for is, or the ninth red flag that a marriage most likely will not work, is premarital cohabitation. Cohabitation. Studies have shown that couples that live together before they get married have nearly 100% extra chance of divorcing. And it's counterintuitive because you believe that, well, if we have practiced being husband and wife, when we get married, shouldn't it work? The statistics show that when you play house, you live together before you get married, the marriage does not work. Fastest way to get a divorce, start living together before you get married. Because when a couple are living together before they get married, there often is a lot of resentment from one of them why we are not yet married, and often it is the woman. Okay? So, remember that premarital cohabitation increases your chances of the marriage not working. Or, premarital births increase the chances of the marriage not working if the child was between the two of you. I'm not talking about the fact that she's had a child and she married someone else, or he has a child and he married someone else. That's different. But where the two of you had a child before marriage, even when you get married, is problematic. And that's a red flag. Brings me to number 10. Now this one, I find difficult to say, but because I'm a victim of that, but it is true. So if it's combined with a lot more of these other ones, I would advise that you reconsider getting married. When the person you are dating is coming from a divorced family, I know you want to shoot me. You see, trauma can be transferred transgenerationally. And when a child grows up in a household where there was divorce, there's a higher chance that that child themselves will also experience divorce. Am I saying you cannot marry someone whose parents were divorced? No, I'm not saying that. All I'm saying is that the moment you marry someone whose father and mother were not together, know that you are starting a race from behind. Why? One, the person may not have witnessed how a father and mother must live together. That creates a problem in itself. Number two, they say dead goat does not fear a knife. So, the person has this feeling like, if this does not work, I will leave. After all, my mother didn't die. Okay? One of the glues that keeps a marriage together when you are facing problems is when the parents come in to advise and keep the marriage together. But when parents are divorced, they whisper to the child that if it's not working, come out, you will not die. So when you are marrying someone that came from a divorced family, the person is coming with trauma of divorce, which increases the likelihood, unless you work against it, which increases the likelihood that you will also experience divorce in that marriage. I've seen it so many times. So if you are a guy or a lady, and there are two options that you have to get married to. One grew up in a family where there was no divorce, the parents were together, there's a solid family foundation, and the other grew up in a family where there was divorce and so on, and you love both of them equally, and you must pick the one that came from a good home. And this is coming from someone whose parents got divorced. The amount of baggage we bring into a marriage, and if the person is not, should I use the word, aware enough to be able to work through the issues, you have a problem. So that was number 10, coming from a divorce background. Okay? Then number 11, which is the 11th one, or the 11th flag that maybe I shouldn't get married to this person, is when the person has high neuroticism. Sorry, let me pronounce the word well. Neuroticism. High neuroticism. What is high neuroticism? High neuroticism involves emotional instability and can lead to negative perceptions and reactions within a marriage. When the person you are dating has high levels of anxiety, high levels of anger, high levels of depression, and you are observing it in the relationship, don't marry the person. And so Uncle Josh, who should marry those people? Someone else. But here's the thing. The two of you are going out. While on the way out, someone crosses the car. Your guy shouts at the person, and the person does this. And if you are in Ghana and Africa, you understand the person does this. And it spoils the entire date. Your guy cannot get over the fact that someone insulted him. By the time you get to the restaurant, he's shouting at waiters, he's shouting at you. Why? He does not have emotional controls. Okay? She sees you talking to another lady and she cries the whole day. You have to go and sit in her room and apologize and explain. Or he just wakes up some days and says, I'm not in the mood, and he's moody for 3-4 days. When you realize that this person I'm dating has high levels of emotional instability, which often can even be an indication of mental health. There are so many people who have married other people that have major mental health issues. Run! I wish I could run across the screen for you to realize how intense it is about the fact that you see, if you are married and you realize that your spouse has these issues, then you have to deal with the person. But if you are not yet married and you notice these issues, don't keep telling yourself we will work through it. You are not a psychologist. You don't have the degrees, nor the qualifications, nor the medication to help the person work through those problems. Talking about red flags. Okay? Brings me, so I said, where there's high emotional instability, stay away from the person. Let me round up. High emotional instability, make sure you stay away from the person. Brings me to number 12, a large age gap. A large age gap. Here's the thing. Normally, the husband and wife are not, most of the time, they are not the same age. And especially in the African context, a lot of the time, the guy is older than the lady. The ideal is when the age gap between the couple is between 2 to 5 years. Alright? So that means a 3-year gap. We can manage with a 7-year gap. That's even difficult. 7 plus 10-year gap. There's a major problem that affects marriages like that because the power dynamic is so different. One person is so high up in his career, the other person is starting their career. One person is already so wise because they've experienced so much of life. The other person is still learning and making so many mistakes. So it sometimes becomes like a father married to a daughter kind of relationship. Uncle Josh, but our father's time, they used to do that. Our father's time was different. So we say where there's a large age gap, please do your best not to get married. Brings me to the next one, short courtship. Where the courtship is very short. You've dated for 3 months and you are getting married. You met her. You were on a flight from Tamale to Accra. You got on the flight, you got talking. By the time the pilot said, please, the seatbelt sign has gone on, you've already proposed. By the time you're at the airport, you say, you see, this is love at first sight. There's nothing like love at first sight. There's lust at first sight. Okay? We advise that the minimum time you should spend in courtship before you marry should be 1 year. And even that, the ideal should be 2 years of dating. How about if we break up? If we date for 2 years, then we'll break up. Then how are you going to do marriage? Marriage is forever. So we advise that where there's a short courtship, it is not ideal that you get married. Why? There are so many things that only come with time. You didn't know that during the raining season, he falls sick when rain is falling. He will experience a bad cold. He will be this. He can hardly work. So that means that 6 months or 4 months in the year, the person is going to be sick. But you are dating in the dry season. An extreme. All right. So if you do not spend enough time with the person, you will have issues. I have 2 more and then we will be done with this. The presence of secrets or undisclosed issues. The presence of secrets or undisclosed issues. A couple of years ago, a lady came to me and she said, hey Joshua, I'm going to get married. I'm inviting you for the wedding. I wasn't a marriage counselor by then. And I said, oh, okay. What's his name? She mentioned it. I said, oh, what secondary school did he go to? I'm not sure. I asked another question. I need to ask him. Then at point I said, does he have any children? She said, not that I know of. You are going to get married to someone and you don't know anything about the person. The lady said, he's in the army. I said, what's his rank? I don't know. What work does he do? He does those IT things. What in IT? Do you know how broad IT is? Is he into data security? Is he in hardware? Is he in software? What is he? He works in the hospital. Is he an orderly in the hospital? He's a doctor in the hospital. You see, when there's so much that is undisclosed, you have a problem. So much information undisclosed, you have a problem. Because there are secrets in there that will finally come out. Like a couple that got married, and true story, the lady wakes the guy up in the night and says, man of God. She says, yes, you said God said you should marry me. The man said, yes, I heard from God. Then she said, is that so? Did you pray very well? He said, Rabba Saka, I prayed very well. Then she said, well, I just wanted you to know that I'm a witch. Undisclosed secrets. So sometimes when you're dating, you need to ask a person, are you a witch? Do you perform sacrifices? Okay? Undisclosed issues. I know couples that got married. The lady didn't disclose that she had a wayside abortion that had affected her womb. In fact, she didn't know it had affected her womb. And now she was married to the guy. I know people who have got married with secrets and one partner had HIV. So when they are on this, and you see in a short courtship, you can't know all of that. Sickling status, HIV status, is there a child in the village? Are you wanted by the police? Have you embezzled money before? Are you running from another country? All those things. I'm running out of time. Brings me to the last point, the last red flag, number 15. is when something in you, your instinct, is telling you are making a mistake. Sometimes everything seems okay, but you can't shake off that inner voice. We as believers we as Christian believers know it's the voice of the Holy Spirit, where you can't shake off that inner voice and that inner instinct that, no, he's saying all the right things, he's doing all the right things, but there's something I can't put a finger on. There's just something I can't put a finger on. Are you with me? When you don't have peace and that inner witness that this is the right marriage to get into, there is a problem and you should back out. This has been the Marriage Clinic podcast. We will be back with Ask Uncle Josh. Take care. Okay, so I was going to do Ask Uncle Josh, but one of my guys behind the camera asked a question, which I believe is good for Ask Uncle Josh. He said, I mentioned in the video, one of the videos we had, that if the person you want to get married to is coming from a divorced family, isn't that a red flag? And what do you do? Because he's looking at the fact that he's coming from a family where there was separation. And if he meets a lady who comes from a family where both parents are together, does that disqualify him? So I started with the analogy of, if you're going to buy a car and they tell you that, well, this car is a good car, but the shock absorbers have a problem, or maybe the transmission has a problem. What you do is that, because you like the car, when you buy it, the first thing you do is you go to buy that part to replace. So if you find out that you've come from a divorced background and you want to get married and your marriage will work, then you must do the hard work to undo the mindsets and the things that cause divorce. Let me use myself as an example. My parents separated when I was, I probably was like 10-ish, thereabout. I realized that the chances of me getting divorced were high. So, from the get-go, I started studying about marriage. I started looking at my parents and asking what were the things that caused divorce with my parents, and seeing how I can make sure I don't grow with those same deficiencies. My dad of blessed memory really had an issue for the ladies. So I had to work at myself not to chase everything in a skirt. I had to understand that because I come from this background, this is how I saw life, but that is wrong. So I must change it. Okay? So, it doesn't mean that it's hopeless if you come from a family where there was divorce. It just means that there's more work that needs to be done on yourself to ensure that you are able to overcome those weaknesses that would have made you more prone to divorce. All right. Thank you so much for being with us. This is a new format of Marriage Clinic. And hey, God bless you. Take care. Bye-bye.